Hi all, I am Chandra here, Chaitanya's Python support. So we are on mini project discussion. Mini project name is the Analytic American Association. So this is the project name. And coming to the project overview, so there is an organization. The organization can deals with the clients, employees. The employees are nothing but lawyers, and some of the tasks and bills, timesheets, and some of the admin related works. So here the clients are the customers, so who can visit their office or the website for their problems to consult a lawyer. And for each and every client will be registered in an organization with some basic information. The task will be generated based upon the client's information, like based upon the client description. Whereas coming to the employees are nothing but the lawyers, so who all are working in an organization. So the lawyers who can work on some tasks, the tasks are nothing but generated based upon the client's information. And as well, the employee also have some of the timesheets. So this timesheet will have, this timesheet will have to be submitted to track the working hours. And based upon the timesheets, the bills has been generated for employee, and the same the whatever the timesheets has been submitted in the timesheet, the task information and the client information and all those things will be included. Okay, and for each and every employee will have some standard rate card, in the sense some standard amount to charge on the working hours or working tasks. And whereas the tasks are nothing but here the two types of tasks will be there, and one is the billable task, in the sense the chargeable task, and the another one is the non-billable, in the sense non-chargeable task. Okay, so employee has to work any one of the particular tasks on hourly basis, and employee will get paid the hourly amount as per the employee standard rate card. And whereas the time sheets, as we discussed, the time sheets is mainly for the employees, so which includes the information about the employee details, the task which employee has worked, and the date on which date the timesheet has been submitted. And here the number of working hours, the number of working hours should not be 8 hours. So for the employee who all are going to be submit their timesheets, so they has to fill the working hours is only 8 hours. They cannot submit more than 8 hours. And whereas coming to the bill, so bills are nothing but the two types of bills. So the one bill is for the client, the another bill is for the employee. So this bill has to be generated dynamically. Okay, so yes, so we are just going to enter into the technical concepts. So here the mainly this is the main thing we need to look into it. So write and implement the project using core Python, advanced Python, exceptions, and a regular expression. So all these topics must and should cover in this project. So now let's jump into this the technical information. Let's discuss about the task management. So what is the task management? What we need to do it here. So as we already discussed it, the task is the task is created based upon the client's information. So the basically what client is looking exactly, so that based upon the client basic information the task is going to be generated. And now come first point is implement a method to create a bunch of tasks in the system by reading the task.csv. So there is a file is called the task.csv. So this file has some list of task information. So you need to implement it. So the all the some some, for example, the 10 tasks it's there in the file. So the all 10 tasks has to be created in the system at a time. That is the one point. The next point is it is the same. To create a new task manually, it means no need to take the input from any file, as we just taken it here the task.csv, and initiate the task class. So here by looking into this you need to initiate a task class, so with some of the attributes. So whatever the task is created and going to be saved in a file. The file is nothing but it might be here it is mentioned the test file. Basically you need to choose the file by using the module is called the pickle and the self. By using the pickle and self you need to store the information in a file. So basically for creation of the task, what are all the basic information is required? The first information is the task ID. So this task ID has to be generated automatically and it should be in this format. So how the task ID should be TSK underscore some 6 digits random number. This is automatically generated, no need to take any input. And whereas coming to the task name which will be defined the task name and allowed characters are the uppercase, lowercase alphabets, digits, hyphen, underscore, spaces only. Apart from this, don't accept any kind of character. So this should be within mentioned character itself. And coming to the chargeable field will define whether the task is the billable task or non-billable task. So you can define with the either with a boolean value true or false or either with a string value yes or no. So now the rate card. So for each and every task there will be a rate card. This rate card will defines for a this rate card will defines the task mean the amount the rate for this particular task, and this value must be the integer value or the float value. So this has to be validated, and here there is another validation. The rate card has to be filled if the task is chargeable only. Okay, other than the rate card will be zero. Now the next one is a create method for update. So once the task is created, at some times we must require to update our task. Okay. So the third one is we need to implement how we can able to update the task. So to update the task, the basic information, the basic input is the task ID is the basic input. Why? Because of this is the uniqueness we are creating in the system. So if the task ID is available, so then you can just consider these inputs, the task name, chargeable, the rate card. So while updating the task also, you need to look into this whether the task is the chargeable task or non-chargeable task. If it is a chargeable, then only you can take this input. If it is non-chargeable, you cannot, I mean, you just simply avoid this particular rate card. Okay, and here the note I just mentioned, the validations applied while creating the task, the same validation will be applicable while updating the task as well. So this is the third point in the task management. And next the fourth point, so create a method for delete tasks. So sometimes we might require to delete the task. So in this case also we need to take the input as a task ID, and this particular task ID we need to verify it whether it is available or not in the system. So then only if it is available, just delete it. So this is the sample task ID I just given it. So this is what the fourth point. Whereas coming to the fifth point, create method for search task. So in this case, there will be some number of tasks will be created in the system. If I wanted to get some particular task, in that case, how can I able to get it? So it's very hard to verify all the tasks. So if I have the task ID, if I implement the search task, it will be easy. So in this case, the input is the task ID. This is what the sample I just mentioned it. So while searching the task also, you need to verify whether it is available or not. If it is available, that particular task ID information you need to display it. This is what the fifth. And next the sixth question is, so display or list all the tasks which are available in the system. So what are all the tasks are available in the system? All tasks you need to display it. In this method, there is no input is required. Why? Because of as we are displaying all available tasks. And if there is no tasks are available, you simply return it as no tasks are available in the system. So this is what about all the task management. So next is the address. The address is nothing but the one of the object. So before going to discuss with the address, we will just discuss with the employee management. So now coming to the employee management. So similarly, whatever the bunch of tasks are going to be created, similarly here the bunch of employees has to be created. So for that, the employees.csv, there is the input file is attached in the test. So this file has some of the dummy data. So as soon as this file is loaded in the code, you need to implement a method to read this particular file, and what are all the data is available, all those data has to be created in the system at a single attempt. So for that you need to write a method. Okay. So, and the next one, the create a new employee and initialize the employee class. So the employee class has to be implement. The class name is here and some of the attributes. These are the attributes needs to be included here. And as well as as we already discussed that the employee ID, I mean the task ID, the similarly here the employee ID. It has to be generated automatically. No need to take any input. It has to be generated automatically in this format. The EMP underscore is the prefix. So for this prefix, the 6-digit random number has to be generated. The employee name. It will decide the name of the employee and it will allow only these characters as we discussed in the task. So now coming to the employee address. So this is the attribute which holds the address of the employee. Nothing but this is not an attribute, this is an the object of the address. So now coming to the address. So here the address is one of the class. So this particular class object is so one of the attribute for the employee. Okay. So it means so in this particular attribute all address information should be available. So now go to the address information here. So here it is the address. So this address is same for the employee and the client, the basic information as we are capturing the basic information. So here as part of the address we need to capture the mail ID, phone number, the standard bill rate, house number, building number, road number, and all the street number, the landmark, city, state, zip code. All this information we need to capture it, and for each and every information I just written some of the validations and accepted characters, and all this I just mentioned it. You just go through it, you'll get to know, and as per this document you just implement the validations. Okay, this is what the address object for an employee. Okay, so in this attribute the address object will be available related to employee only. So this is what the second point in the employee management. The first point and the second point. In the first point is the bunch of employees are going to be created. In the second point is if we wanted to add the entry, each entry manually, in that case, so this will be helpful. Now coming to the third. So create method for update employee. So as similarly the task, whatever the update we are doing for the task, here also update employee needs to be done. Okay, some of the attributes needs to be considered. Before that, to update an employee we must require some input. That input is nothing but the employee ID. The employee ID is the unique in the system. So just consider as input is employee ID. Just verify whether the employee ID is exist in the system or not. If it is exist or available, so then only you can update the employee. If it is not, simply you can return it as no employee is available to update. Okay, and if the employee ID is available, the employee is available, in that case all address attributes can be updatable. So what are all the address attributes we captured as part of the employee? All those has to be updated along with the standard bill also be updated, and all validations are applicable while updating the employee as well. This is the third point. Now coming to the fourth point. So create method for delete employee. So we must require to delete the employee. So employee ID is the input as it is unique in the system. Okay, employee ID has to be collected. If employee ID is available, so then only delete it. If employee ID is not available, simply you can return no employee is available with this ID. So this is the sample ID for the employee. And now coming to the fifth point, the create a method search employee to take the employee ID as the input to search employee. So this is the input I need to consider it. I'll just search with this employee ID. If it is available, I'll display all the information related to employee. If it is not available, I will simply return it as no employee is available with this particular ID. Okay. So now coming to the sixth point. The sixth point is the same, means display or list all employees which are available in the system. If not, then display no employee are available in the system. Simple. For this, there is no input is required. Okay. So now we'll just jump to the client management. Here it is the client management, and for the client management also the same. The implement a method to create a bunch of clients in the system by reading the clients.csv. The clients.csv will be available in the test. So this is the input, one of the input file. So by using, by creating a new method, the method, what the method has to do, what are all the data is available in the clients.csv, all the data has to be created in the system at a time. So once all the data is created, it has to be stored in a file using the pickle or cell module. Okay. Now coming to the second point. The second point is nothing but if we wanted to create the client manually, each entry, the single entry we wanted to add it. In that case, this method has to be implemented. The create a new client method has to be implemented. So to create a client, this is some of the attributes here. I just added it. The first attribute is called a client ID. This is auto generated in this format. The CLT underscore 6-digit random number has to be generated. Okay. And here another one is the client name. This attribute defines the client's name, and allowed characters are the alphabets, spaces, underscore, hyphen, and the digits. Apart from this, no other character has to be accepted. Okay. And next one is the client description. So based upon this description, the task has to be created. So this description, the allowed characters are the alphabet, spaces, hyphen, underscore, and the digits. Okay. And for this, the client description, it should not be more than 500 characters. That is a one check, 500 or 1000 characters. It should not exceed more than 1000 characters. I'll just add that information as well in the client description. So after this client description, we will be having the client address. Similarly, where we discussed about here the employee address, similarly, we will be having the client address as well. Here, after this client description, I'll just add the client address as well. The client address is one of the attribute for the client class, and that attribute is referring to the address object. Okay. Next, coming to the third point. So create method for update client. Some of the attributes needs to be considered to update the client information. So for this to update a client, we must require the input is called the client ID as it is unique in the system. Okay. And all address attributes can be updatable. Along with this, the client description and the standard build rate has to be updated. And the all validations are same. Whatever the validations are applied while creating the client, the all validations will be applicable the same. So now the fourth point is create a method for delete client. So it is similar concept. The client ID is the input as it is unique in the system. This is the sample client ID. I just given it here. If the client ID is available, so then delete the client. If it is not available, you just simply return it as a client is not available with this ID. That is the fourth point. And next, the fifth point is the client create method for search client. So this is also the same kind of thing, like client ID is the input to search with this client ID. If it is available, we need to display the particular client ID, the client information. So this is the sample client ID here. And the sixth point is display or list all clients, so which are available in the system. So how many clients are available? All those clients we need to display it. If no clients are available, so then the no clients are available in the system, we need to return it. So this is all about the client. So now coming to the bill management. So here the bill has to be generated for employee and a client. So there is no information we are storing regarding the bill, and it has to be generated randomly. Dynamically it has to be generated. So for the employee and the client, and we are not storing any information. Okay. And next, coming to the second point, if the bill is going to be generated for employee, so please consider the employee ID. The bill includes the employee ID if bill is going to be generated only for employee. And if the bill is going to be generated for the client ID is the main point, it has to be covered. So what are all the information should be available in the bill? The information is the bill date, the when bill date is going to be generated, when the bill is going to be generated, either for the employee, either for the client. That date has to be included. This particular date defines the generated date. It should be in this format only. YYYYMMDD and a bill hours. So this defines the number of hours to calculate the hours. So this bill hours is defines the number of hours. If it is the client, if it is the employee case, the number of hours the employee has worked for a particular task and for particular client. In a similar way, the client has to pay the some amount to the organization. So based upon the number of hours the number of employees are worked for this particular client. So that is, this will defines it. The bill status. So whether the bill is paid or not. If it is paid, you can just mention it as either at a boolean values or either with a yes or no. If it is paid, you can just mention it as true if you wanted to go ahead with a boolean value. Or else, if you don't want to go with a boolean, you just make it as a yes, the string value. Okay. So this is what in the bill information. If it is the bill is related to employee, so then the employee ID has to be there. If the bill is related to the client ID, so then the bill information should be the client ID information. Okay. So this is what about the bill. And again and again I am telling, the bill information we are not storing anywhere. The dynamically it has to, if it is the client, so then the timesheets has to read, and each and every employee, and in the employee timesheet we will be having the client information, and as well as the similarly the same for the employee as well. The timesheets has to read, and each and every timesheet will have the employee ID. Okay. So this is what the bill. Next, coming to the timesheet management. So here we will be having the timesheets for the employee. The timesheets includes the timesheet date, the client date, task date, hours, and everything. Okay. So these are all the attributes in the timesheet. So what are all the attributes? We are just going to discuss it here. The timesheet ID. This ID is auto-generated ID, as we already discussed. Similar concept in the client and the task and the employee. And this is what the sample timesheet has to be generated. TMS underscore the 6-digit random number. And here it is the timesheet date, and what date the timesheet has to be the timesheet has to be generated. So this date has to be accepted in this format itself. If you are accepting in this format in the timesheet, so then no need to validate while generating the bill. This is the one case. And next one is the client ID. So this defines on which client a particular employee is worked it. Okay. And whatever the client ID is mentioning in the timesheet, this client ID should be available in the system. You just need to verify it whether it is available or not. If it is available, you need to throw an error is saying that the client ID mentioned is not available. Okay. And similarly the same for the task ID as well. The task is defined on which task it is the work has been done. It will decide on this. Okay. And here one more attribute is called the employee ID. I'll just update it. Okay. The task ID and employee ID also be available in the timesheet. Employee ID also available in the timesheet, and that employee should be exist in the system. Okay. And this is the hours. This will define how many hours on so on particular date it is the employee has worked on it. Okay. So this hour should not more than should not be more than 8 hours. on particular date. Okay. For example, the timesheet date is today's date. Today he has worked only 4 hours. So it means the 4 hours has to be calculated. In the same date, if you are updating the another client, another task information like 5 hours, it is not acceptable because the addition of the previous hours under this hours is 9 hours. It should not be possible. Okay. So this is what about the timesheet creation. And the next one is create method for update timesheet. So we need to update the timesheet as well, right? So to update the timesheet, we must require the timesheet ID because it is a unique in the system. So this particular timesheet we need to verify it whether it is available or not. If it is available, so then we have to update that particular timesheet. What are all the updates we can able to perform? The timesheet in the update it is not required. In the timesheet update, the client ID is required, the task ID is required, hours is required. Okay, these three informations are required, and date is also not required. Why? Because of if we modify the date, the data will get corrupted. Shouldn't update the date. The date is constant, employee ID is a constant. You should not modify it in the timesheet case. Okay, and the validations applied while create the timesheet, the same validations will be applicable while updating the timesheet as well. Okay, now the third point, the timesheet cannot be deleted once submitted. So don't delete any timesheets. You should not delete any timesheets in the system. Once it is created, let it be. Okay, don't touch any delete operation on the timesheet. Next, the fourth point is the create method for search timesheet. So to search a timesheet, we must require the timesheet ID. We need to collect it as an input because of it is a unique in the system. Okay, so this is what the sample timesheet ID. With this timesheet ID, you need to verify it. Okay. So next, the fifth point is display or list all timesheets which are available in the system. If not, so then display the no timesheets are available in the system. For this, there is no input is required. Okay. So this is what all about the project. So hope it will be clear for you. If it is not clear, you just simply reach out to me. I'll clarify your queries. And at end of this document, the requirement explanation link is already available in our YouTube channel. You just go through this particular link so that you can repeat it, so that still if you have any doubts you can contact me. Okay, so this is all about the project. You need to implement it. And again I am telling, it should be using the core Python, advanced Python, exceptions, and the regular expressions. Okay, yeah, wish you very all the best. Thank you.